right, we are live. Good morning, PT on Ice crowd. It is morning. It is Monday. That means today is a little Monday with Pop. I am Mike Eisenhart, lead faculty on your APHPT division, your APHP, prevention, health promotion, and all the like, population health, and all that good stuff. Trying to move the herd, trying to get people moving in the direction of health, and using the power of doing so, techniques and tactics to pull that off. So today I'm going to talk about 7 simple things. I often get asked if I can break it down and give people the how. Can you just tell me how to go about it? Can you get to the punchline and just give me all this, right away? What do I do? Just give it to me. I'm very resistant to do that, and I'm sure people have figured that out. And I'm resistant to do that because I feel like so much of this is learning by doing, by getting good, by practicing the skills. And there's a discovery phase here that has to happen for us as professionals where we really make these links and connect the dots. So today I'm going to try to connect a few dots for you. I'm going to use an adapted version of some things and take you through that. Let me get my clock ready to roll here, and we'll get started. Okay, so there we go. So first thing I want to do is just, and there's a method to the madness here. I just want to sort of tell you the progression of things now. Where are we now in this time of year? You can see the blue sky behind me. Got up and went out and did some movement this morning, and you might be able to hear the birds chirping in the background. It's a beautiful day here in New Jersey, which usually means it'll be a thunderstorm, by midday. I don't know. We've had that pretty much for the last 2 weeks, every single day, thunderstorms. I don't know. Bottom line is that it's a beautiful day, and you sort of get it while you can get it, so you get it while the getting's good. So where this goes for me, at least, this time of year, is things get busy. It's one of the most busy times of year. I'm going to head out at the end of this week to the House of Delegates out in Chicago and spend a week out there with some colleagues, really looking at lots of different things in my role as a nominating committee member, really be paying attention to leadership. And one of the things that we really look for in that role of trying to decide who might be qualified to lead, at least for the APTA, is their power to influence, their power to help people change, where they want to go and help change, whether it be the association or the profession or society at large, since that's kind of the overall mission. So I thought it was kind of apropos to talk about that a little bit, but I'm not going to use that as an example. What I'm going to use is a little closer to home for me. And it ties in very well with where we're at in the CERT course right now. We've got a couple of people who are going through the certification process, and they're at a point now where they need to start discussing and kind of thinking about how are they going to move the herd? How are they going to get a group of people to move in the direction that they want them to move? Because that's really what this is all about. And at the end of the day, that's kind of like our mission when it comes to this idea of upstream care or population health, or quite honestly, of anything that we do as therapists, right? I mean, like what we're trying to do is help people change. At the root of what we do, we're helping them from one current state and trying to get them to a desired state. And at its root, that's change. If we do it with more than just one person, we're trying to move groups of people. There are other dynamics at play. And so we have to kind of think about that. So I'm going to kind of go through some of these steps. Now, these are adapted from Robert Cialdini, or Cialdini, if you pronounce it the Italian. Robert Cialdini is a professor, I think, out in Arizona, and he's pretty well documented and well known in the area of persuasion. That's kind of his area of study. He's a psychologist by background. And he's developed pretty clearly these kind of 6 principles that are important. They're not the end all, but they have been validated at some level. And so I think that, we can get a lot of benefit out of them. He's gone back then and furthered his work and said, there's one more, and that's the 7th one. And so I'm going to talk through those because I think they're important. I'm going to try to put them within the context of a change effort. Right? So every year now for the last 3 or 4, I've been sort of leading the Flying Oxen on the Summer of Move. And the idea of the Summer Move is very simple. We believe that movement is a window into future health, and it's also a way of changing the trajectory of people's lives, of changing whether or not they're going to get sick early in life, whether they're going to lose quality of life, and that movement overall can change that. And that every one of us as professionals really has that right at the tip of our fingers if we know how to use it. And unfortunately, when it comes to large groups, we don't know how to use it. Now, in essence, that's the reason why we created the Foundations course and the Precision Prevention course and Total Lifestyle and the certification. Those courses are designed to help people kind of get into that space. But one of the things that we really have to come to grips with at some point is, how do you actually do it? How do you move the herd? And how do you put the odds on your side? Now, over the last 2 years, I've kind of used the Summer of Move as a demonstration project, in many ways to demonstrate to you, people who follow along this conversation, or the people who are standing kind of on the sideline just watching, to say, hey, like let's see if this stuff works. And of course, I point to the results every year and say, hey, look at how many people get engaged, and look at how many people change their health. Even people who are in the health-facing space as therapists, they're able to learn more, do more, push, because we've designed it in a way that is built to actually move them in the direction of health. And it works, and it's worked every single year, at varying degrees for different people. Some people make catastrophic changes. I mean, like just monumental differences between when we start and when we finish. Other people, sort of sort out and get organized. They experiment, they dabble with some things, and then it falls off for a year. And then they come back and they do it again, and maybe they get another step closer. And so all of those things come with a method to the madness, and I think we sometimes forget that. We also sometimes forget that these things don't have to look like hard science and tactical interventions. We don't have to actually do anything to a person to help them go where they really want to go. So what are these things? The first thing that Cialdini talks about, and one that I think everyone really needs to know, these things. And the reason why, again, just quickly an aside, the reason why I think we all need to know them, and the reason why I feel like it's important to say them again, is because we all know they're out there. The information is out there. The trick is, how do you apply it? So the first one is all based on connect, right? So we talk about connect as element 5, but as you take the course, many times you'll hear me say it's actually connect first, and then move, fuel, recover, endure, and then connect again. So it almost creates kind of a cycle. The first one is connect, and the reason why is because, again, of human biology, physiology, whatever you want to call it. It's only gotten cooler to watch as all of the research on expectations and beliefs have shown that rapport in many ways is everything. Trust is everything. If the person sitting in front of you or the group that you're connecting with doesn't trust you, you're doomed. It doesn't matter. If they don't think your interventions are going to work, they're not going to work. It doesn't matter how wonderful they are. That's kind of the reality of our situation. If they think it's going to work, it's going to work. And so that trust is everything. Now, reciprocity is kind of the first principle that Cialdini talks about, right? The idea that when you give of yourself, when you give something, when you make it, genuine effort to help someone succeed, there is a natural biological reflex to want to give back in return. Right? So if we want to help move a group, if we want to help move a population, we need to invest in their success first before we can ask for anything. So I see that happen wrong all the time. Everybody wants to go in the door and pitch the hard sale and get people to do something, and hey, like, you need to change, and let me tell you why. And the person's biology isn't primed for that. They're not primed yet, and the reason why they're not primed is because you haven't done anything for me. You haven't shown that you have my back. You haven't shown that you care. And when you show up and care enough times, eventually I'll realize that you're caring for me, and therefore I want to go back and do the same back to you. That's reciprocity. Second one is liking, right? So being likable, building rapport. But what that really means is not just being a likable person, although that's good recommendation. We should probably do that. But it's more than that. It's really about being genuine and being similar. So there's this great book, and I, out to my friend Aaron, who's starting a big day today, and my partner Aaron out on the West Coast is getting started and grinding with a new group out on the West Coast, and that's a really important first step. And we've been talking about the book Hitmakers. And Hitmakers is a book that really talks about, the tendency for all of us that we tend to like things that are similar and just a little different. If you give me something that's too different, it's going to throw me off, and I'm going to kind of like push back against it. If you give me something that's exactly the same as everything else, I'm going to be bored. But as humans, we tend to like things that are similar to us. Now, you can think of that, the negatives of that in society, that creates lots of problems for us, that our bias tends to, sort of check us at the door and not give people a chance, that we do snap judge and we do make judgments by, like cover judgments, and not quality of the book, but that is something we have to know going in, that being similar enough primes the pump for someone to say, hey, I do want to change. I do want to make a change, and I want you to be with me on the journey. Social proof is number 3. He goes right into it and says, listen, social proof is number 3. I think actually we're in no shortage of that right now. I think social media has made social proof really, really easy. It is important, but we see it everywhere, right? Like, look at me with my friends all doing this, or check out, this moment of FOMO, like whatever. Like, that's become such a thing that I almost think it's played out, but, it is a critical principle that when we see others doing something, the power of the group is incredibly persuasive. So everything from like, whatever that TV show was years ago where they would poll the audience and the audience would almost always get it right? The group itself, the power of the group is almost always right. But what that means is that wherever the group currently is, good, bad, or ugly, is where they're usually going to stay. They're usually going to want to stay where they're at. So if you go into the middle of a group, think of a bell-shaped curve. If you go into the middle, you are not going to move a group, right? The middle moves from the ends. The ends, the more vocal, the more passionate, the more extreme, they tend to pull the middle in one way or the other, in one direction or the other. And so we have to know that very clearly. That although we want to show people social proof, and you will see this built into the Summer of Move, right? Why do we have a private media group for people who are playing along so they can post pictures and have conversation? Because it spurs us on to try new things. It's now the group says it's safe, so it must be safe. Okay, authority. Authority is the one that I think that therapists can easily step into, but unfortunately we don't. I don't mean this as an accusation or as a a negative. We are not super proud in how we communicate. I don't think that's one of the things that we put high enough on the pedestal. Some people do. Some people really take the time to become excellent communicators, but the truth is as a profession overall, it's not something that we value high enough. Communication is everything. I mean, that's how humans change. We change by being able to interface with others. Now, that can be, stone tablet or on the cave wall communication, or that can be direct, look you in the eyes and have a deep conversation communication. But the bottom line is that's what makes us move. That's what helps us to change our attitudes, our beliefs, and that's, of course, what spurs action. So that has to be something that we get really good at. Now, here's the thing. We've tried to show that we're authoritative. Like, yeah, I have authority on this subject, and it's because I'm learned. Well, that's very different. Those are two very different things. Being learned on something and knowing everything does not make you an authority. Okay, what makes you an authority is the ability to consider all sorts of different, permutations of the same thing, all sorts of different contextual factors, and still be able to come up with something that works for the group at hand. Right? Like, that is what makes you an authority. That's what makes you an expert, a master. When someone can say, listen, I understand your unique context, and I'm not going to try to drive this thing down your throat, okay, even though that might be the best way to solve this problem. I'm going to try to work with you, okay, to come up with something that can still work within what we know. Right? So the difference between saying something like, well, yeah, okay, you could do that. Yeah, I mean, we see how it goes. Or honestly, no, like that will never work for you. Here's where it has to go. Those are both maybe learned things, but definitely not authoritative. Right? Authoritative would be to say, well, in our experience, we've seen 2 or 3 different things work. We could probably go with any one of these 3, but I've never seen anything really outside of those 3 work. And then here it is. Or based on the evidence, honestly, like, this is the trend that we see almost always. And so when we look at those trends, probably one of them is going to be best in your situation. Which one do you think would work? Right? That's you being an authority and then still ceding control. So that's a technique. That's a tactic, a simple step that can be taken care of. Scarcity is one that we see again always. Act now, buy the used car now, or 1995, buy your Ginsu knives, right? But it has to happen right now. That's scarcity. We don't have to go into that too much. Everybody understands that when something is rare or unique, we tend to want it. We don't really want something that you can get a dime a dozen every single day. So understanding that there are factors that can make things unique, and then playing to those factors. So again, we like similar, but we like different as well. So this is where it gets tricky with the human, right? As humans, we like things to be similar enough. Don't give me things that are too wacky or crazy, but give it to me just in the uniqueness of it. Show me how it's just unique. Okay? And finally, the last 2, consistency. Okay, consistency is king, in my opinion. It's probably the most important one. It's the one that says, listen, you're going to see me continue to tread forward every single day. Expectations. You know what you're going to get out of me, okay? Every single time. You can see it in this podcast, right? There's a reason why I end every single Monday with Make It Count. Why? Because that keeps me in tune to what my mission is, okay, here in talking to you, and it also keeps anyone listening in tune with what the mission is in communicating back and forth. Even though this is largely a one-way communication channel, there's a little bit of back and forth, it still makes it clear that what we're after is making change, is helping people to make bigger change, to move the needle. Like, that's where we start every Monday, okay? We start with that spot, and then we work from there on how to do it. Okay, that consistency is king, and in our practice of this, we can absolutely do it. So when a person says, hey, how can I go and step into the clinic and actually get this going? Well, come up with whatever you think is the most critical thing to do and keep it consistent. Every single one of your patients should be measured on their cardiorespiratory fitness status. In last night's live session for the intro course, we talked about that. Every single one. It does figure out a way. There are tests all over the place that you can do. There are simple equations you can do for someone who can't even move, who sits in a chair. Okay? You can back into that number, but understand it affects every system in the body, and it affects your rehab outcome. It affects the person's health in the long term. It affects their surgical outcome. It affects everything. So that's the kind of thing that can become known, that, hey, we're going to look at how well you can process oxygen, because it affects everything. And if you don't have that number, how could we possibly give you a complete approach to your care? Okay, so that is a stay the course, consistent. Now here's the thing though, this is where it gets really cool. When you have that, then people are willing to make a baby step in that direction, and once they make a baby step, they're willing to make more steps in that same direction, right? So even if no matter how small it is, when a person says, hey, I don't have time to exercise, I don't say, oh, well, that's a shame. And I certainly don't say, well, yes, you do, figure it out, right? What we say is, well, let's talk about that idea of time, because you may not need as much as you think. And all of a sudden now wait, what do you mean? Well, do you have a half an hour? No, I don't. Okay, do you have 15 minutes? No, not really. Do I have 10 minutes? Probably not. Do you have 5 minutes? Yeah, I probably have 5 minutes. Do you have 1 minute? Yeah, I definitely have 1 minute. Oh, there's the bell, I gotta hurry up. Okay, I definitely have 1 minute. Okay, great, let's work with that. Okay, you'd be shocked how many people I'll start with that. Like, hey, listen, I'll take 1 minute. You give me 1 minute, but you give it to me consistently, and I will work with you to devise something that can give you a step in the right direction in 1 minute a day. Are we on board with that? Can we commit to that? Yeah, okay, I'm gonna hold you accountable to it, 1 minute. And then we almost make it fun and a joke. Like, remember, I want my 1 minute today. Okay, and at that point now, the person has taken a step, and they've realized, hey, that wasn't so bad. Now, many of them will go forward and say, I did more than 1 minute. I did 3. And wow, you did triple. You tripled your goal. That's fantastic. You think you can do 3 again? And now we can move forward. That's the consistency. But none of that starts if people don't know that every single time you talk to Mike Eisenhart, at some point he's going to talk about CRF. At some point in the conversation, the idea of your cardiorespiratory fitness status is going to predict your health is going to come out. Okay, and so you need to have those things too. It could be CRF. If it is, play along with Summer of Move, because that's going to be a big part of it this year, as it always is. Okay, and I think it's a good one because it links to just about everything that we know: heart disease, diabetes, cancer, you name it. I mean, Alzheimer's. I mean, you name it. The things that are killing all of us, it relates to. So I think it's a good one, but you might come up with something else that you think is critical. Okay, the last one, and this I think is the most important one. It's the nuanced one. It's number 7, and it's the one that Cialdini has kind of recently brought back, and that is unity. Basically, the idea of unity is tribes, right? It's shared identity. It's when I identify myself with something that you identify yourself with. When we're both part of the same thing, we're much more likely to drive forward. Okay? And so that is a critical thing for all of us. For all of us, the goal is to show people how similar they are, even despite differences. And this, of course, this is a wormhole we could go down. I promise not to do it. But we could easily go down this idea, right? This wormhole of we are all way more similar than we are different. In fact, you've heard me talk about that in previous episodes, probably a year or more ago. We are all more similar than we are different. Our job as professionals in this space is to actually show people how they are similar and not different. Because once we all believe that we're similar and I see the similarities, I can then build rapport. I can't build rapport with someone who's not similar. Okay? Like if you're all different all the time, like there's no common ground, there's nothing to work with. But when we can show people the similarities, even if the similarity is the same struggle, we're all struggling the same way. No one in this country can afford to be sick. Bottom line, no one can afford to be sick. It's the fastest way to bankruptcy. Okay? So we're all struggling with that. Unless you are the super rich, which very few of us are, okay, we're all struggling with that. And so if that's the case, we can build on that. That's something, that's firm ground, and we can build on it. Unity, okay? Unity, not division. And so that's a really, really big one, and especially this time, of life and where we're at as a society, it probably couldn't be any better than that. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. What I'm going to tell you is this. The Summer of Move is going to be a demonstration project. People have begun signing up. Okay, I would urge you to do that as well. Sign up. Play a part in it. Play a role. Do something small. You don't have to win it to be fulfilling. A big part of it is just being part of it. And every single year we've seen people who do things that take them beyond the level that they ever imagined. And I wish that, of course, for you or anybody else who's listening, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your community, whatever it is. Okay, look for that and get involved. If you need information on it, you can certainly hit me or just look on the Twitter account. Going forward, as far as things going on the ice side of the equation, our intro course just wrapped, which means another one is probably registering soon. Take a look at that. If this is the kind of stuff you're interested in, dive into it. You'd be shocked at how much these simple things can increase the skills that you have, both clinically and non-clinically. Also fulfillment in life, which of course is important. Okay, and then finally, the rolling admissions for CERT course and lifestyle course and precision course, all those things are rolling forward. Rising Tide as well. Last thing to sort of note, Rising Tide, if you haven't signed up yet for September, or actually I guess that's October. If you haven't signed up for October, do so soon. We're going to be in New Hampshire doing a little hiking and definitely connecting in a big way. Have a great day. It's only Monday. I apologize for running over. I gave you like 6 or 7 extra minutes. That's a lot for me. It's only Monday. Make it count.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.